All right, and the players have just shook hands, and we are about to see the first move. And it looks like we have d4. Oh, and the opponent is saying something about the board, maybe the annotation. So last time I commentated for Phoebe, this actually is exactly what we saw, which is kind of funny. So we might see the pieces of paper brought out again. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. I'm late. Hey, now listen. We saw the game start. Okay, and Phoebe has decided to play. Looks like G6, so she's gonna go for a fianchetto. Is this ASMR? I don't think so. I mean, maybe unintentionally. Hello, Wavelina. Hello, Joel. We don't have a board. Yeah, I'm pulling it up. 1 second. Johannes. Okay. How's that? It looks like Phoebe and her opponent both have a. Is that a Coca-Cola? Is this a sponsored stream? How many points does Phoebe have? I think she has 2 points. Yeah, 2 out of 7. She has a win and 2 draws. Hello, Cosmo. Good to see you. So, yeah. Last time I commentated, she obviously had the win, so expecting nothing less this time around. What meme will we see? We'll have to find out. We'll see if Phoebe goes for any queen trades or mate in wands. Yeah, that was. I mean, listen, all credit to Phoebe. She is world-renowned content creator. She knows what she's doing. I'm gonna flip the board so we see from Phoebe's perspective. I think, let's see. Okay, so yeah, not a London. After d4, obviously you could play bishop to f4, but it looks like Phoebe's going for a hyper modern defense, so to speak. She's just played d5, laying claim to the center. And eventually this bishop will fianchetto and the king will castle kingside. Pretty solid stuff. What's your rating at, Sam? Counting the squares. Yeah, I mean it's fun to get to play on the DGT board. It's fun to have an audience. It's fun to have your games broadcasted, but at what cost, really? You don't get the notation on the board, unfortunately. You'd think these fancy DGT boards would have something in place, but no. The good luck charm, Jenny. I hope so. We'll try. We'll see if we can keep it up. Okay, looks like we've got some smiles. Another drink. I know Phoebe recently picked up coffee for the caffeine. Now she's got Coca-Cola, some soda, and her opponent too. So they're even as far as the beverages go. They both have also looks like a water. Okay, what is this? Is this tape? See, when Phoebe played the girl, look at all the people looking. Everyone's like, what's going on? Look, the people are coming over to look at this spectacle. They're like, I can't believe it. In all my years. He's laughing too. He's got no shame. What's up, Chelato? You would need this, Paul? Listen, guys, there's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with needing a little help, okay? It takes courage to know when you need help. See, look, he's got the files, but he doesn't have the numbers still, the ranks, unfortunately. So, that's half the battle. What's the meme of the day? It's a great question. The tape is better than the small piece of paper. That's true, Tagbon. It's an improvement. Shout out to these organizers. They really know how to meet the needs, the demand. Look at Phoebe's face. I don't know who she's looking at, but there's something going on. All right, whose turn is it? It's White's turn. When you have to put the coordinates on a piece of tape, make sure it's on your own time. So, all right, and we have a move here. Bishop out to d3. For the wisdom of the day, see, that's what Ginny's here for. Ginny is here to bestow upon us her wisdom. And, sometimes maybe there isn't always a meme of the day. It was a bit spontaneous. It just came about. There were no expectations. It just happened. So it was a moment in time that was truly magical. But I have no promises. I can't guarantee it every time. So we'll see if it happens. If it happens, it happens. Otherwise, I am afraid I'll disappoint you guys. So apologies in advance. Someone tell Tagbon I say hello. Tagbon, Chelato says hello. He's too embarrassed for the numbers, but not for the files. Joe will be remembered by his meme creation, Destrin. That's how you'll remember me. There was this guy named Joe. He made a meme one time. Honestly, I just described the meme. Really, it was Eskia who made the meme. He didn't even play F4. There's a liar on Discord. A nomination for meme of the day? Hold on, I have to look at this. Okay, that's actually pretty good. The solution to not knowing the coordinates, just slap a piece of tape on it. Problem solved. See, you guys are more creative than me. Alan, is this your girlfriend playing? No. Phoebe and I are just friends. I'm very much single. But thank you for asking. Honestly, it would be an honor to know that anyone... No, I haven't had any proposals lately. Okay. We have... Is that C3? Phoebe did Fianchetto. Now, will she castle? Or will she do something else? I know, Pizza Racer. The sacrifices I make just to make an appearance. Okay, knight from B to D7. Now, that's a tricky one to annotate because you have to include the additional letter. Otherwise, you don't know which knight would go to D7. That's a common rookie mistake. So let that be a lesson for coordinates 101. When two of the same piece can go to the same square, you must designate which piece, typically by letter. Yeah, she's making things harder for him for sure. Like, she could have played knight to c6, but no. No, she's making sure that her c pawn is not obstructed. Maybe some people are wondering, why not put the knight towards the center? This is something that you'll typically learn very early, is putting the knights in the center. This knight is still in the center, but it's not as farther developed as it would be on c6. So the point is that we don't want to obstruct our c pawn. This knight could be very helpful in one of these central pawn pushes. So we'll see. Maybe she'll castle next, maybe put the rook on e8, maybe go for the e5 pawn break, threatening the fork. Or maybe she'll play on the side with c5. We will find out shortly. We'll see how white plays here. Maybe white's thinking about castling kingside. Daily proposals back in high school? No, Sam, no. I definitely I'm trying to, when did I peak? Maybe it was during that meme. You guys seem to really like that. If that's how I'm gonna be remembered. Queen to tape 3. You're new to chess and the stream. What do I need to know about what I am watching, Bedwar? Man, where do I begin? You're new to chess entirely? Do you know the rules? So, 4.5 billion years ago, the universe. No, I'm just kidding. I actually don't know. How old is it? Is that the age of the? I mean, it varies depending on who you ask or what you believe in. Okay, b4 played. So preventing c5. This guy saw knight b to d7 and said, I'm not allowing c5. Not today. Not on my watch. Phoebe might insist with b6. That might be interesting. 2,000 years ago and 13.8 billion. Now you're wondering how old is chess. Yeah, I've heard like 1,500 years. You're 400 something rated? Okay. So you know some basics. Well, I'll tell you this. There are tournaments played in person. I think most chess is played online these days, but originally chess was played on a physical board, as you can see here. And these tournaments people will travel to and compete in. This one is in Split, which is in Croatia. Can I explain how the knight moves? It moves like an L. So like you can see that's kind of an L shape. It's kind of a reversed L, but an L nonetheless. Okay, bishop here. Not the best place for a bishop, really, with all these dark square pawns, but maybe this pawn will push at some point and try to open. Wait, is that how split is pronounced? I don't know. I've heard it both ways. I just know that I've been saying split because I heard someone else say it like that, and it sounds more European, maybe. But if it's split, I'll gladly say split. Bedwar gifting subs. Holy smokes. Thank you. 10 gifted. I appreciate that. It's split? Who's been saying split? You're from near here? It's I'm receiving mixed information. You understood that reference? I don't even know what I'm referencing. Yeah, I don't speak Dutch. but maybe it's for the best. Short I. Well, I've had a few people tell me that spleet is right. Honestly, I don't know what short I means. You'll teach me Dutch, Jenny? That seems like a large undertaking. I can barely learn Spanish. Short I is like an is? Same as banana split? Oh, okay. Thank you, Waveley now. You learn something new every day. Guaranteed win. Asma, shout out to Alex. Great commentator. Honestly, been doing a majority of the work, I must say. She's been doing the heavy lifting for this tournament. I'm gonna just avoid saying the name of the city. You're from Serbia. That's awesome. What's up, Christy? Legend. Yeah, I've heard there's a lot in common between English and German and apparently Dutch. Honestly, Dutch and German seem pretty similar because, I mean, German is also known as Deutsch, right? Which sounds like Dutch. They're basically the same thing, at least from my perspective as an educated American. I imagine I just keep spewing nonsense and just being like, yeah, most educated American. No, just kidding. I don't want to make us look too bad. I think we already make ourselves look pretty bad as is. When I was in Europe, I tried to be on my best behavior. I was like, I have to have some good manners at least, because I already feel bad. Like, oh, okay. We don't talk about Bruno. Is it Bruno or it looks like there's no U? Bruno? I think I've heard of I don't know how it's pronounced, but if you're saying Brno, I've I know there's a university there, I believe, because they've registered for the Collegiate Chess League, which is what I do. Burnow? That seems like a completely different place. Also, Singtao, you're welcome. But thank you for tuning in and watching. Learn Dutch if you hate the letter G. Yeah, that one is a little confusing to me. I think the letter G is pronounced different ways depending on what vowels come after. Thank you, Nico. Yeah, I know, Tagbon. I have to get that free promotion in there. But I think it's like BUT, University Technology? No, I don't know. But yeah, it turns out universities from all around the world have chess teams. So, well, say gent in Dutch. Oh boy. Well, so I know good morning is like morgen. The G turns into like an H. So maybe Gent would be like hint. But maybe that's wrong. Maybe I would need a hint. Southerners have a soft G. Pretty good. Thanks, Jolo. Also, it varies if the J is a J or if it's a Y. Like, I always say Jolo or like not Joel, but I've heard people say not Yoel, so that's also confusing. How the Yeah. I don't have enough like you need, I swear, dude. There's a there's a bit of a rasp you need in your throat. Um, Technically, it's meant to be YOLO. Okay, so I guess I've been saying it wrong. Not a Y. So YOLO is saying it's technically YOLO, but not Joel is Joel, not Yoel. It's confusing. Score. Yeah, Phoebe is 2 out of 7. She has 1 win, 2 draws. Does Joe turn into Ho, Christy? Well, it depends what time of the day it is, but I think how it's pronounced, it's just Joe. But we've been saying the J's will turn into Y's, not H's. I think it'd be like yo. I think like Sweden pronounces J's like Y's. Okay. Let's see what's going on the board. It's been a while since I've looked at the position. Okay. Um, C6, just a solid move. Nothing too crazy. Phoebe's gonna run out of her Coke. We need another refill. I know, Christy. Yeah, she didn't have that last time I watched. This bishop should be fine. We'll have to see this knight move. I'm expecting e5. I think would be good. Threatening the fork, and maybe we see a trade. And then her bishop can come here. Although I think maybe short-lived, because at some point it can be questioned by h3, and when we fianchettoed, we can't go back. Otherwise, we'll get trapped. So who knows? Maybe the bishop will live on e6. Phoebe's blocking her bishop again. Well, I prefer this bishop over this bishop on b2 for sure. Okay, so knight from b to d2, opponent copying us slightly. And now I do like e5. I think e5 is a logical move in the position, breaking through in the center. She played rook e8, which I think is a very good sign. If rook e8 then follows e5, using the rook to support the central pawn push. And we'll see how much Phoebe thinks about this. She's leaning forward, assessing the position. Yeah, our opponent is German. So maybe their name is Johannes. Soft G lock? Lock is lake, right? Or it's short for Loch Ness Monster, maybe. It's 2JE. A CH from Scheveningen. I'm definitely missing some pronunciation there for sure. A word in English, and it's me. Is that Pisano? That word does not look like English to me, but if I had to pronounce it, this is what this stream is turning into. Can Joe pronounce things? I would say that Schweinsteiger, which I shouldn't be saying things that I don't understand because I don't know what they mean. It's probably not a good thing for me to do. What are we talking about, Asmoata? We're talking about funny pronunciations to an American, I suppose. What's up, Frankie? Good to see you. Shout out to Frankie. I've seen Frankie stream a few times. Always been a good time. Okay, so Phoebe starts with Queen C7. Didn't play E5 immediately. And now White should play C4 because it's going to open up the bishop and help put more pressure on the E5 square. Now, I have a feeling White might not do that, but there's a lot of support for this push. Maybe with the queen on the C file, Black would play something like Rook C1. Oh, German football player. Jenny's very knowledgeable. I don't watch soccer, or as you would call it, football. To be fair, I don't watch much American football either. I'm more of a hockey guy, which I know some Europeans like hockey. Like it's pretty big in Sweden and Finland and Russia. But maybe not in some of the smaller countries. Why is there a bishop on b2? Well, because it wasn't a London. Because there's no bishop on f4. So, yeah, the London bishop, it's a little confused, but that's okay. It's the actual name of the sport. My bad. Yeah, I don't watch soccer or football. So I just watch hockey. All right, moment of truth. Is he going to play c4? C4 would be a great move for White. So imagine c4 played, and now imagine we completely ignore that and try for our e5 move. Takes, takes, takes. And you see now we can't take back with the rook or the queen because the bishop is now there as well. So e5 was the break in the position that Black should have played for. And it looks like we're supporting this, but the problem is we've allowed this move c4. So it depends. White might miss it. I think the odds of White missing it maybe are high, just based off of the sheer number of options White has. I'm not going to waste all of our time and count all of the possible legal moves that White has. But c4 is only one of them. I'm a big Blues fan, yes. Is Alex ready for Maya? It's a great question. Do I play hockey? No, I don't. Will I do commentary for Maya? I will. Oh my goodness, he played c4. Great move. All right. The odds weren't in his favor, but he managed to pull it off. Great demonstration of understanding here. So now Phoebe has to work a little bit harder before she can get e5 in. And why is e5 so important? e5 is going to help us open up and control the center, right? Controlling the center is very important for your pieces to be able to move and to play. So c4 is a great move here. We'll see. Phoebe might capture. She might not capture. And those are really the only two options. So we can narrow it down. Please play e5 at some point. It's not going to be as easy. So we can support with our bishop. I'm thinking we can move this knight. But also notice the knight has no backwards moves. So the knight would have to go into perhaps dangerous waters. Going forward, probably not good, as this is controlled twice by white, only once by us. Going here, we can always get kicked, but maybe we find a new home on h6. All for the sake of opening up the bishop and trying to play e5. So yeah, that gives the knight maybe two viable moves. But maybe not the best, maybe not the right time. So we might not be able to play e5 right now, but that doesn't mean that we won't be able to in the future. And honestly, c4 is a great move regardless of the control of e5. If you just look at it from the bishop's perspective, the bishop was really blocked in. And I was saying that I like Phoebe's bishop better than white's bishop. But by opening up and pushing c4, a lot of these pieces have more options. So even though the bishop doesn't necessarily want to move to c3, it's just that much more opened up. And these center pawns, they're going to be moving at some point, right? We could see captures, pushes, trades. So we'll see how Phoebe reacts and responds to this, but this is definitely a good move by white. The game is still very early on here. And both sides of castle, king side, both sides relatively safe. And here we just see the fight over the center, right? And ultimately, if you're, confused, if you're in the middle game, you don't know what you want to do. I like to think of it from like a development perspective. Both sides have almost completed development, but we still haven't connected the rooks yet. So this bishop is our worst piece, and we need to develop it. But it has nowhere to go right now because these pieces are in the way. So Phoebe might be thinking about maybe pushing the pawn, maybe moving the knight. And meanwhile, white hasn't developed their queen yet. So we could see the queen go to the c file, maybe go to the e file. Probably most natural would be somewhere along this diagonal. Going to the e file might be a little awkward opposite the rook. And also just notice the queen's kind of smothered, trapped a little bit on e2. No forward progression from there. Whereas going to the c file, you still have some options. Maybe there's something about controlling e4. And that's really the decision Phoebe has to make right now. Is I mentioned you either take or you don't take. And if you don't take, you have to live with the repercussions of knowing that you give white the option to push, to take, or to do nothing. And taking is interesting because it looks like we have a new square for our knight. And now we've opened up again. We're trying to play for e5 again. But also, you give up control over e4. So this pawn is doing an important job. That being said, it's interesting. Takes. There's no time to play e4 immediately because this pawn is also hanging. And this was kind of a weird move. This was played after Phoebe played knight b to d7. So you could tell white is just preventing c5 from Phoebe. So we'll see. Phoebe might capture, but she might not. She might just play something like b6 or maybe knight b6. And yeah, knight b6, you might get hit by c5. clamping down on Phoebe's position. So that's another consequence you have to consider. Hello, Stap, and hello to Rabeasley. How's it going, everyone? Appreciate you all tuning in. Maybe he has written his name on the duct tape. The Neon Poodle. It's possible, but unlikely. I assumed it was for the notation of the board, but maybe he's like, oh, this board simply won't do. It doesn't have my name on it. How am I supposed to know what board I'm playing at? Maybe after the game, the winner gets to keep the board. That'd be nice. Hello, Christomir. How's it going? Phoebe hates bishops anyway? I didn't know that. What does she have against bishops? What's up, Frank? Good to see you. How's it going? Welcome in. I think Frank followed yesterday, or was it? I don't know. I don't know when, but maybe it was after Alexandra Samaganova raid. If I'm pronouncing that right. I think Alexandra's from somewhere in Eastern Europe. I really shouldn't be saying stuff that I don't know about. I'm just winging it, really. I don't know how I've been entrusted with commentating chess games. I think it's because just people have seen me do it before. And they're like, oh, okay. And now I'm just getting asked to commentate people's games. And really, I didn't mean for this to happen, you guys. I just like started doing it, and now next thing you know, I'm like a couple years into it, and I'm like, how did I get here? This is just some existential crisis that constantly happens in my mind every chess game I commentate. I'm joking. That was a joke. Don't take me too seriously. That's the one thing you have to know. Someone asked, Joe, what do I need to know before I watch this game? You have to know that I'm not a very serious person. So everything I say, you have to take with a grain of salt. So when I tell you guys that Phoebe is doing a great job and that she has a very good chance of winning this game, that I mean with sincerity. So I can be confusing sometimes. You never know. Also, I feel like in general, I have pretty deadpan humor. Or I can be sarcastic without people really knowing. So I'm just going to keep you guys on your toes. You've been taking notes, Bedwar? You'll throw them away? Okay. Yeah, honestly, you shouldn't learn from me. I don't know why people have entrusted me in this position, but I saw PMD was commentating, and he mentioned that the North American commentators are undefeated so far, so that's pretty good. I think it's a coincidence. I don't necessarily believe that Phoebe's playing style and her strength are necessarily tied to the geographical origins of her commentators. But maybe there's something to it. I don't know. I mean, we saw what happened when Asmoata commentated for Phoebe. And it's been multiple times. I mean, she did get a draw. So it's not all been losses. Central Asia, not Eastern Europe. Okay. Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, I was going to guess Kyrgyzstan, but I didn't know. It's Central Asia, not Eastern Europe. So that's my bad. Also, like people have told me that Russia is Asian, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's European. But I mean, at some point there's a line between Europe and Asia. I just don't know where it is. Atlantic Ocean or even Australia. You know, Neon Poodle, that'd be funny to me if I knew where those places were. I don't appreciate the geography joke. I'm joking. Most of Russia is in Asia. Okay, so part of it. Asian Logan Roy, thank you for the 100 bits. Happy Friday. Welcome. Do not learn from me. Jenny, you're still taking notes, though. Russia's coming to Europe this summer. Just like the good old days. That was a joke again. I know. I mentioned Russia when I talked about hockey, and I was like, I don't know if I should talk about Russia. But anyways, Russians, they like hockey and they like chess. So in a way, I'm kind of Russian myself. 1 out of 10, that's higher than it deserves. And vodka, that's true. You guys are so... I'm thinking like, okay, what are Russians known for? Hockey and it's like, no, it's the vodka, of course. Like, you know, everywhere has their beer, right? Like Netherlands has Heineken, right? But I don't know. Like beer is not my favorite. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, which is where we have Anheuser-Busch. It's where we make our Bud Lights. I know how Europeans feel about Bud Light. Whiskey? Yeah, I guess US has like Kentucky. We make whiskey, right? Bourbon? Honestly, I don't know the difference, you guys. I'm not the guy to talk about alcohol. Borscht. Okay, Pizza Racer. You see Bud Light 100 times. Okay, Phoebe has captured this pawn. So yeah, I am a little concerned about maybe we see e4 at some point, and white will have that pawn duo in the center. All bourbon is whiskey. Not all whiskey is bourbon. Yeah, that makes sense. Bourbon's like a type of whiskey. St. Louis is the center of chess in the U.S. Is that correct? St. Louis is pretty much the geographical center of the U.S. in general, but it also happens to have the World Chess Hall of Fame, which is a coincidence. A lot of people hear that I'm from St. Louis, and they're like, oh, that's why you play chess. But I actually didn't play chess until after I had left St. Louis. And then I got into chess, and I was like, oh my God, I could have been at the chess capital. Did Phoebe win earlier today? Unfortunately not. But that's okay, because she has a second chance. We've got 2 rounds in one day. So I hear a lot of people don't like playing twice in one day, but that seems to be pretty standard here in the US. So I've heard the chess experience in general is much better in Europe, although I've never played in a tournament in Europe. Okay, opponent captures with the bishop, which is kind of interesting. There was only one other way to recapture, and with the knight. And I think the knight makes a little bit more sense to me, as the knight is a little bit farther behind on the board from the second rank, as opposed to the bishop from the third rank. And yeah, you know what's also crazy is in this position, the computer says the best move is still to play e5. So after, let's say white takes, then it wants us to play knight g4, and then that's how we're going to recapture. because they steal your pieces in St. Louis or in just America in general. Knight b6 to knight bd5. Uh, yeah. I mean, I like knight b6 for sure. The computer is saying you could play a5 or b5 as well. I think a5 makes sense. It's a way to open up for our rook. I had mentioned earlier our bishop is our worst piece, but there's a very good chance that you could argue the rook is even worse because if the bishop can't move, the rook can't move. But maybe our rook doesn't need to move. If we push a5, then the rook is doing quite well where it stands. Or maybe I should say where it sits. It depends. Do you guys think the rook is sitting or standing? Now, these are the fundamental questions that's what keeps me up at night. What about Scotch? Scotch sounds like it's from Scotland. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You can learn a lot about the world through alcohol. So, for example, when I went to the Netherlands, I visited Phoebe and Mandy, who, as you all may have heard, she likes to drink. But I actually saw with my own two eyes. It was actually, I think Phoebe was drinking more than Mandy. But you guys can't tell anyone that I said that. But maybe we'll see Mandy stop by. I don't know. I guess Friday it's technically a work day. It's sitting for sure. Yeah, I said standing at first. I was like, I mean, the rook hasn't moved. We won't tell her. Stop the Mandy comments. Oh no. Look, Jolo has the command, actually. Mandy's command. That makes sense, Christomir. Oh, thank you, Stap Vargan. I don't know that. Yeah, where are you from? Are you from the Netherlands? Because I guess it could be Stap Vargen, perhaps. Anyways, yeah, PMD. He's my fellow North American, but he's not an American. He's a Canadian who, if anyone likes hockey, it's Canadians. So shout out to the Canadians. I've never been to Canada, but I've always wanted to go. I hear they have great poutine and maple syrup and hockey. And really that's all a guy needs. You're Sweden. So is it Vargan or Varhen? I guess if it was Dutch, it'd be Varhen. Ice hockey. Yeah, you guys say ice hockey. We just say hockey. Because I guess hockey to you is on a field, but we call that field hockey. So, the wolf? Grape. Is that how you guys pronounce that? That to me is Putin. Field hockey equals land hockey. Hockey is dominated by the Dutch? You mean field hockey? Steppenwolf. Okay. A specific wolf. In Swedish? Field hockey's big in the Netherlands. Poot. Listen. You guys, how do you guys say poutine? The food poutine, not the person. We say Putin. I don't know. You guys say okay. Wait, is it like they're both flipped exactly? Phoebe's gonna rewatch the commentary and be like, I don't know why. What are you guys talking about? Listen, we're talking all about life, food, sports, alcohol. I mean, sounds like a great time to me. What are we doing here watching chess? Anyone else having a drink? It's not even 11 a.m. for me yet, but you know, that's like prime brunch time. Give me a mimosa. People will judge you, if you have alcohol before a certain time of the day, apparently. But it's okay to have a mimosa in the morning because I don't know, there's orange juice in it. I'm invited. Let's go. Is anyone watch? Chess is related to everything. Yeah, I mean, chess is life, as they say. You're about to have dinner soon? Nice. Is it gonna be pizza? For the Joe Rant Oscar chess? You're too kind. Like, okay, what's Joe gonna say this time? Joe made that meme the last game. It was pretty funny. How is he gonna top that one? I don't think I can top that. That might just be the pinnacle of my chess commentating career. It sounds like a good time. It's me, Paseno. Chess is a beautiful game. Chess, to me, it's more of the community that I really appreciate. I think, we're all from different parts of the world, maybe have different beliefs, tastes and things, personalities, interest in various sports or foods or drinks. But the one thing that really brings us all together is our chess, our appreciation for this children's game that some of us have devoted our lives to. Speaking of children, looks like we've got a spectator. Phoebe's giving the look. There it is. The the back away from my camera look, and it worked. Classic. It's a good one for sure. Hello, Nor. Yeah, Phoebe's rating is 1598 as shown according to chess.com. Her opponent 1465. Okay, Phoebe, she's reaching out here. Knight to d5. And now my concern is e4. I think e4 is a great move. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, the thing is, though, this pawn is hanging, right? So it's very interesting. Computer loves e4, just taking the center with the tempo. So I am curious, though, what happens. Yeah, opponent very quickly saves the pawn. And now my question is, do we have time to play e5 now that that's opened up? Hi, Ellen. Good to see you. Tell the kid to move. It's funny you say that. I was going to say they can't hear me because I mean, it's a video. It's not a call. But there has been a time where I commentated for Phoebe and we were on a call and I wasn't muted on the call. So I was commentating their game on the speaker. So yeah, and then Phoebe immediately got up and grabbed the camera and started leaving, and I was like, "What's going on? What's happening?" And then I realized I wasn't muted, so that was pretty embarrassing. And yet, it seems I've been forgiven, so I wasn't immediately fired. And okay, knight from 5 to b6. this is really testing the notation taking skills. So earlier there was knight b to d7, but now both knights were on the d file. So you have to specify the rank of the knight. Knight from 5 to b6. Hello, Physic. Thank you for the card. So this is hitting the bishop. Okay, you guys want to go down this rabbit hole with me? I was personally curious what happens. What does the computer want with the top line, e4, blundering this pawn, which, by the way, computer does not want to take this at all. It wants you to play knight to f4, or actually even b5, some crazy, inhuman stuff, truly. Here now there's this move, queen to b3. So that is what we call a fork, which is pretty brutal. So that pawn was never under any serious threat. But opponent didn't go for this. So, okay, that's what we, or really what I missed, I should say. You guys all saw that. I just have to do this for my own personal sake. So, okay. Knight from 5 to b6, hitting the bishop on c4, and now bishop back to a2. And this is the current position that we have here live on the board. And now my question to continue here is, can we play e5? We had been mentioning e5 as a move. Now the problem, it seems, with e5, maybe we still have this this queen b3 idea is pretty annoying, perhaps. So, yeah, I am curious if Phoebe will go for this now. The computer doesn't like it at this stage. And why might that be? Yeah, queen b3 is a move. It also likes to move knight to g5. So, yeah, this f7 square seems to be a point of interest here. And it's something our opponent maybe could have taken advantage of earlier by playing e4 while the knight was on d5. Maybe trying to bait the b pawn. But the b pawn lives. It was protected. Maybe part of the reason for a3 is not only to protect the pawn, but also to give that square for the bishop to back up to. Maybe queen b3 is going to be the next move for white. So this is a very interesting moment for sure. White appears to have some strong ideas. Also, shout out to Eskia showing up, our meme maker. Do I know the story of Anna Cramling and her mom commentating on her OTB game suddenly being rerouted to the speakers in the venue and being heard by everyone because of a naughty fly? I've not heard of that at all. A naughty fly? A fly? Like fly you fools? That fly? Who, by the way, I don't think I've seen in the chat yet. Are you lurking, Fly? Fly is not one to lurk much. I've witnessed, at least, but who knows? A real life fly hit the phone. You're telling me a fly turned on a speaker? That sounds like an excuse I would make up if I did that. I swear it wasn't me. What's up, Krishna? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I mean, how big of a fly are we talking? Like a horse fly? Like a dragonfly? I don't know, guys. Was there video evidence? It sounds like there's a fly that got framed. Touchscreen. But yeah, that does sound really funny though. the meme of the day nomination? No, but someone posted a GIF in the chat. Um, this opponent. Oh, the video's lagging a little bit, or maybe that's just me. I don't know. Seems fine now, but our opponent needed help with the notation, which this is my second game of the tournament, and I'm 2 for 2 with the opponents needing notation. Honestly, you guys, I'm not gonna lie. If I saw my opponent needed help with the notation of the board, I'm thinking to myself, like, I think I can do this. Like, not to sound mean or rude, but like, I'm thinking, okay. I mean, I think Phoebe's very strong, and I think Phoebe has a lot of skill and talent and potential, and I can't say enough good things about Phoebe. But I do think that sometimes, like, the opponent's rating might get into her head a little bit. Like, that game where she was beating up, what, the guy was like 1790 or something. Phoebe was in a much winning, like, the draw that Alex commentated. That game, she should totally have won in the end. I mean, she was worse early on, but then they got into time pressure and the kid couldn't hang. And Phoebe ended up getting a much better position. She had like 2 pass pawns, connected pass pawns. And then they ended with a draw. And, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you could want to draw. I mean, also, like, the opponent is much higher rated, so it's a good result in the end. But I think that Phoebe could be selling herself short a little bit by ending the game early. And I think here Phoebe actually is ahead in rating. So Phoebe definitely should be trying her best here. I mean, she should try her best regardless of the opponent and their rating. But this is very doable, right? Even though position is actually pretty good for white, and Phoebe might have missed some opportunities to play for e5 and help her pieces out. This is still a very even game right now, but she does have to just be a little bit aware of f7, and her move h6 certainly signifies that she is aware of this idea, right? She knows that f7's a little weak, and now queen to b3, it's really forcing the issue here. So luckily, she hasn't pushed e5 because now she can play e6. Of course, e6 is kind of like a band-aid for the problem of the situation. So the f7 is very weak. And e6 is going to block in her bishop. So, yeah, now white's connected their rooks. Phoebe's going to have to make a pawn push here. Otherwise, she's going to have to put her rook back on f8. And you don't want to try to block with like the knight because you're just going to get kicked by the pawn. So I'm really only seeing these are the 2 moves that Phoebe can do. The good news, though, is that Phoebe's going to find one of these 2 and play it, because queen b3 is a very telegraphed move, and that the point is very clear. The threat on f7 is pretty significant, and you only play h6 if you're preventing knight g5. And so we just have to decide. I think e6 is a good move. The previous turn, before h6 was played, obviously we see the question mark here, signifying that it's a mistake. What it wants here is actually this move knight to f8. And then if knight to g5, then we play e6. And just in general, we don't necessarily want to push the pawns in front of our king. So moving the knight back just helps our bishop develop, right? Which has been a problem. And again, the computer still likes this a5 idea, which has been in the position for a while. It's just a way to help open up for our pieces. And yeah, Phoebe also, she's been spending a little bit more time now that they're out of the opening. So we'll see how long this takes. I think it's easy to get into kind of like a consistent groove of like how long it takes you to play. And it can be a little bit harder to get out of that groove. So I think the reason why you would play e6 over rook f8 is because your rook was on f8 already and you played it to e8. So putting the rook back to f8, it's a little sad. But I mean, also the f8 square, maybe the knight would go there, but also that would be a little sad as well. If you put the knight on f8, there's no forward moves. Well, actually, Phoebe's played h6, so I guess there's a square to go to now. But yeah, she should play e6 here. And there's no like knight d5 I had mentioned. There's no other move besides these two. So we'll see. It's fine to take your time for sure. But we don't want to waste time. So it's kind of a balance that you need. So we'll see. We shall see. Yeah, opponent's playing well, but not the end of the world. e6, very solid move. And then, white can then bring the rooks into the game, right? And then we'll see what Phoebe wants to do with these pieces. So maybe this knight will go to f6. Johannes, that's your dad? Is your name also Johannes? Johannes Jr.? That's really cool. Are you also playing in the tournament? Oh, you drew. You're 4 out of 8. That's awesome. Okay, so you're playing. That's your dad. Sorry, I missed this earlier. Oh, that's so cool. You got a nice head of hair, Askia. Listen, Askia, you're a beautiful man. Hair or no hair. Beauty comes from within, truly. 4 out of 8's pretty good. I think that's really cool. I've heard of people playing in tournaments like with their parents before. I think like Nodule's parents both play, and he's played against them, and I think families that play chess together is just really cool. E6 on the board. Phoebe's done her job here, protecting the threat, and now the question is back to white. And white doesn't have like there's no knockout, there's no tactic, right? But white has an advantage in development, right? They're just ahead in that regard. So we should see maybe the rook to the c file. Just a very solid move, right? Just bring the rooks in. And Phoebe has to do a little bit of catch-up work here, right? So these pieces need to come out and play. So it's like, uh, you know, if a player gets a red card and they have to leave, one team will have an extra player and they'll just have an advantage. White can have an advantage in having more players on the field, whereas black's players aren't participating yet. So that's my my analogy. And I did all of that without saying what we Americans call it. I'm trying my best here. But you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Anna. I just met Pia for the first time during her visit to St. Louis, and I know many of you have probably seen the video, but Anna called me a terrible tour guide. So let that be an invitation to anyone that would like to have a visit of St. Louis and the Chess Club and the World Chess Hall of Fame. You can have me as your tour guide and know that you had a similar experience to Anna Cramling and her mom Pia as well. So it's really cool though. The highlight of that experience for me was seeing Pia at the World Chess Hall of Fame, and it's in the video too if you want to see it. But essentially there's this wall with a lot of players like photos on it. It's actually the inductees of the year, I think. Okay, rook a to c1 has been played. Definitely a very solid move. Great move from Johannes. He wouldn't see the tactic if there was one. That's rude. You got to believe in your dad. Your dad played c4 when it was the best move. Have you seen the game? I'll show it to you. So, opponent, yeah, after knight b to d7, playing b5 here, just clamping down on c5, I guess. And then putting the bishop on b2, which I think seemed kind of interesting. But it made sense because opponent played for c4. But Phoebe should have played e5, like right now. I think would be a great time. So she played c6, and then here again is kind of the last opportunity to play c5. So maybe she should have gone for that. Instead, she plays queen to c7, which looks like it's supporting e5. But the problem now is white has this move c4. And so he's found it, he's played it, and now there's no time for e5 anymore. So chess it's a very urgent thing, right? Your timing has to be perfect. I mean, perfect might be a bit of an exaggeration, but if your timing is off by one move, it could really just throw off the evaluation. And so Phoebe's been in this struggle, it seems, of opening up for her pieces, right? So the problem is really this knight and this bishop, and Phoebe's development has been delayed. And so now white is able to create threats, right? And then Phoebe has to play defensively. She's reacting to the threats. She's not in time to maybe create her own threats. So rook a to c1, and now it's Phoebe's turn yet again. And yeah, with this pawn structure, it's going to be difficult for the bishop to have much of a future, I'd say. But yeah, knight f6, totally good move. It's been liking a5 for quite some time. I think knight f6 is a good move. We'll see if she goes for it. I was also considering like maybe queen d6. The computer likes queen b8 as a move. I couldn't explain to you queen to b8, but when the rook is opposite of your queen, it's a little uncomfortable. So this pawn is pinned, and we could see maybe b5 as a move. In fact, if we do play a5, which is the top recommendation, the best move then is b5. So keeping the rook closed and pressuring Phoebe along the c file. you taught him the opening c3 and then c4. Very nice. So we see the prep work being done. You should stop by and maybe wave so we can all see you. That'd be fun. Maybe. Maybe we don't want to draw too much of a commotion and distract the players, but maybe you could do it subtly. Hey, Plotter, and hello to Greta. Good to see everyone. Welcome all for tuning in. We're watching Phoebe take on a dad. Yeah, yeah, Phoebe, she doesn't have a single piece in the fifth rank. Opponent only has 2 pawns in their fourth rank, but definitely some strong piece development for white. We could see the rook now getting involved. So Phoebe's a bit behind in her development. So she has a bit of catch-up work to do, and she's a little bit behind on the clock. But we'll see. We'll see. Johannes, strong start for sure for white. But can they I mean, listen, guys, it's barely +1 for white. There's no material imbalance. We've seen Phoebe get out of much worse against higher rated opponents. Phoebe's on white? I thought Phoebe had black. I think the time control is just 90 plus 30. I don't think they get additional time. Dude, I need some Askia commentary. When is Askia commentating? If I was playing in Maya and I needed a commentator and I knew that a lot of people were already busy commentating or even playing, I'd be asking Askia. So let that be a PSA. But the problem is, I guess Askia is also playing, right? Yeah, Askia is playing, my bad. So you drop everything and cast me. Yeah, I think Askia is probably not even broadcasting his games. I think he's just gonna review afterwards. All right, Queen D6. This legitimately was like the move I was considering. So of course we get the question mark. Phoebe and I, we got that connection there a little bit. Now I just need to like send her some better moves. I have I have the whole power of the engine lines, the eval bar, and yet Queen D6 was what I got across to her. So as per usual, if anything bad happens, you can blame it on me, as we can see here. So, anywho, the computer, you guys, I don't think, I mean, this might just be my own personal opinion, but the top engine line from white, I don't think is a good one. It's saying bishop to c3. So, what does that even do? I don't know. I couldn't tell you guys. What does bishop c3 do? The top line, bishop to c3, knight to d5, hitting the bishop, and then bishop back to a1. Like, why not just play the bishop to a1? I don't know. Chess is too confusing, you guys. I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing I'm not sending the top lines to Phoebe. Maybe for many reasons. Full of clemency and grace. Am I the only one that doesn't know what clemency means? I don't think I've ever heard someone say that. The real life Eskia commentary. Honestly, I watched Asmoata did a live stream where they were walking through some parks. And honestly, Eskia was the highlight of the whole stream. Don't tell Asmoata, but okay, looks like opponent's playing for e4, and yes, they've done that. They've done exactly that, e4. E4, I think, is a good move because, well, it's preventing any knight f6 idea now. But yeah, you've got the pawn duo in the center. It's always very strong to have. Why the queen move? Well, as I had mentioned, the rook was opposite of our queen, and so our pawn was pinned, which can be a little uncomfortable. Best game of his life, Johannes. Well, it makes sense. He's on the main stage. This is probably the most people that have ever seen your dad play chess. Assuming, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's played against other streamers before, but I assume it's his first time. I think it's a fair assumption. My apologies if I should know who this is. Yeah, Johannes Jr. said he's 4 out of 8. I think with a draw today? I'm not sure. Why did he have to do that against Phoebe? Well, guys, listen, we're okay with e4. The best move was bishop c3, as you saw. Bishop c3, inviting the knight to d5, and then bring the bishop back to a1. Here, now we don't have knight d5 anymore, as unfortunate as that is. So, yeah, we'll see. Like, a5, again, is a move. a5 is kind of an interesting move. Like, if black takes and we take with a rook, the queen opens up, and, like, our knight is now dependent on our other knight. So that's kind of a confusing move. I mean, the rook activity is nice, but I would imagine that Phoebe doesn't play a5. And maybe queen e7. I like queen e7 because now we're defending our f-pawn. And maybe we play for e5 again. Maybe. Who knows? Best opening you've seen from him yet. Didn't you say you taught this to him 5 minutes before the game? Isn't it usually the dads that teach their kids how to play? We've got it the other way around. I'm going to teach my kids how to play chess so that they can get better than me and then teach me how to play chess. All right, let's see here. Is that a piece of gum? Oh, he's showing the broadcast. Dude, product placement? Is your dad sponsored? That was sick. Dude sponsored by gum. How much are they paying him? Your dad's so cool. Oh, man. This guy's a character. He knows what's up. It was mint. The engine says plus 1.4. Why? Because white is ahead in development and control of the center. Their pieces are better. White has more options. Black is a bit cramped and a bit defensive and passive. What did he do? He took out a pack of mint and he showed it to the camera. I mean, the dad he's aura farming on stream. I mean, next thing you know, he's gonna be pulling off some Fortnite dances. That's the next logical continuation after showing off your mint, obviously. No, Phoebe is not dancing right now. She's not even showing off any products. Although both players have practically finished their cokes. Phoebe thinking. So you can't go to F6 because of the pawn push. You can't go to D5. We talked about Knight of Fate. I'm thinking Queen E7. Queen E7, and then can we... Ooh, that was a questionable move here. We've got Connect 4 with our pawns. This poor pawn structure. There's space. It's a spacious king. But I'm expecting maybe King H7 and then Phoebe's gonna play for E5. Perhaps, I don't know. But, you know, Phoebe is a chef and we're gonna let her cook. So who am I to question the technique? When this is all said and done, we're going to see the vision. Phoebe's got something cooking up in store here. So I'm excited to see what she does with this. What's up, Megan? Thank you. Good to see you. Automatic win. They're still playing for some reason. Whoa, no way. The board... Okay. Okay, wait. So we have rook A to C1 and then rook C to D1. So yeah, he's just really trailing this queen around. Probably what you would do is after you've already moved this rook, if you want a rook on the D file, you probably put this rook there. So again, who am I to question these things, really? Okay, so now are we going to see the king move, getting off of this diagonal? Perhaps. Must be a DGT error. We should have won. Yeah, Oscar, it turns out this is actually a chess tournament and not a Connect 4 tournament. Rookie mistake. All right, opponent has moved on from the coke to the water now. So yeah, I mean, honestly, the guy is putting some serious time pressure on Phoebe. Like, the moves don't have to be great. Right? Phoebe is doing a little bit of self-destruction here on her own. So, like, the pawn pushes in front of the king are not doing her many favors. But Phoebe can still work her way out of this. I'm very excited to see if maybe she'll play the king move. I think Phoebe's just gotta just pick up the pace a little bit. She's gotta play some chess, really. I think she's nervous. I think she's got a lot of pressure on herself, and this is something that I have talked to her about a bit, is that I think players in general, like chess players especially, they just put a lot of pressure on themselves. I think there's a lot of emphasis on winning or losing, right? And ultimately, I think Phoebe has to understand that regardless of the result, people are gonna be supportive. People are gonna show up. People are gonna cheer for her, root for her, still be a fan, and people are gonna love her regardless of what happens. Queen e7, and yeah, I don't think Phoebe likes losing, and that's normal. That's great. But I also think that Phoebe's getting in her own head a little bit much, right? So, okay. Now rook f to e1. Yeah, I mean White's just playing super fast. But they're playing fine. Phoebe's position, like I've said, has some work to be done. She's cut her own work out for herself. So, I am interested to see, like, okay, is White playing for d5 maybe? D5 doesn't seem that bad actually, but King h7 I think she should play. Yeah, maybe I'm being too harsh. King h7 she's played, and she played that relatively quickly as well. I think we're about to see something dramatic happen. I can feel the pressure building, mounting. Perhaps Phoebe's about to turn this around. How's she doing, PMD? Good to see you. Well, so far it hasn't been the best start, but I'm still optimistic. Yeah, the e5 opportunity was perhaps missed, but maybe she'll go for it next. We shall see. Now, I will say this much. If we push, we have to be careful that our rook never leaves, because when this pawn pushes, it opens up for queen and bishop. And the rook is the only piece keeping an eye on g8, which would be mate. Which is funny because in the last game I watched, I think Phoebe missed queen g8 mate. So maybe opponent would too. Thus restoring balance in the chess world. The decisive game of the tournament. Well, every game is a learning experience. There's so much you can learn from your games. And I think the real tragedy of like resigning or offering a draw is that the game gets truncated. It's a little short. So you're kind of losing that experience of playing the game out. And I think a lot of people will tell you like, oh, this is, you should resign, or opponent should resign, or whatever. And I've never had a problem with people playing things out, because I feel like, you're there to play chess. So like yeah, I'm not going to lie to you and say I've never wished my opponent resigned when I was completely winning. But I don't mind. Like, we're playing a game. We came there to play. Like, I've played against an opponent that blundered a whole rook on like move 6, and we played the rest of the game out. So like, I mean, I'm not going to complain if I'm winning. That's fine. But I think like the early draw offers and early resigns, it's like, who knows? Like, you're kind of robbing yourself from the experience. And I think a major point that I would make about the early draw is that, like, if you are better and you're nervous about losing the position, or maybe I won't be able to convert it and I'll lose, and like my opponent's higher rated than me, so the draw is a good result. I think that if you push yourself to play it out and just try, and even if you fail and you lose, I think that that experience is extremely valuable in future games. And it's something that you can learn from and become better from. So when I say like ending the game early, you're kind of robbing yourself from that experience. It's because you miss out on being able to learn from your mistakes, right? Or, best case scenario, you convert and you actually get the job done. And that's something I think worth celebrating. And yeah, again, losing, like you could still learn from it and become better from it. And that also I think is worth celebrating, right? Just the fact that you would push and try is fantastic. So regardless of what happens, I think that we're all here to play and to learn and to have fun. And if you're stressed out from playing, you gotta reassess your priorities, because like people get stressed about chess all the time. But I like to say you should de-stress and play chess. It should be kind of relaxing a little bit. So the stress really comes from within. It's this internal pressure we put on ourselves to succeed. And I think if you just change your mindset of what it means to be successful, then worrying about winning or losing kind of becomes insignificant, because, if your goal is to have fun or to learn, then there's no losing. So let's see our opponent's move. A4, obviously threatening. A5, attacking the knight. So the best move is A5 at this point to prevent A5 from white. This is securing our knight on B6. However, if we allow A5, notice the knight has nowhere to move. There's no backwards moves, and there's no forwards moves. So Phoebe has to either prevent A5 or she has to create space for this knight. Now, this bishop can't move. So Phoebe's either going to play rook B8 to play knight A8 to then C7, or Phoebe's going to move this knight to, well, notice there's no forward moves for the knight. So the knight can only go to F8 or to B8. So legitimately, there's rook B8, knight F8 or B8, or there's A5. And she's played knight F8. Knight F8 is honestly, I think, something I would have considered. Interestingly, the computer said we could have played F5, which, I mean, who am I to question the computer? F5, okay, I understand it now. We're taking with the pressure on the knight, and if this pawn flinches, we now have access to D5. So that was the point. So that's, F5 was interesting. Okay, so now A5, and now the knight has to go to D7. And yeah, opponent's really just kind of walking all over our pieces here. It's okay, Jenny. Listen, you guys, opponent could have forced mate, but if they can't find it or play it, then it doesn't matter, right? So the eval, it's over +2 now, but the material is still even, right? And like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that black has a good position or, it's a great position or whatever. White is clearly better, but what matters is the conversion. So we don't know if the opponent can convert, right? Phoebe just has to survive. And we've seen this before where Phoebe's been worse. And she's brought it back. She's brought it back and she's been better against higher rated opponents. And ultimately, it's not over until it's over. And the funny thing is that a lot of times the pressure that we put on ourselves is based off of what we think about how others see us. So the ultimate irony is that if Phoebe like agrees to a draw or resigns or whatever based off of like the pressure that she thinks the viewers have on her results, it's really the opposite. It's like we would rather see, I mean, this is me speaking my own opinion, but like I would rather see Phoebe play on in a game where she's better and then lose rather than agree to a draw early. Um, but I mean, there's a lot of things though, by the way, that are happening like behind the scenes that we don't know about. So that's just some additional context. Is people always think like things can be so clear, white and black. Like, oh, like why would you resign or draw? There was a game that I played against like an 8-year-old girl. I think back in it was like 2019, and I had driven. It was many hours. I was living at the time in Bakersfield, and I drove up to the Bay Area, so that's like a 5-hour drive. And as I got up there, um, the day before the tournament started, I actually got a flat tire, and so I was dealing with that. I had to take the car to the shop in between rounds and try to fix it. And after my game, I had like a bunch of missed calls. It was pretty late. The shop had closed. So the guy was trying to contact me to tell me to pick up my car or whatever. But it was funny because during the game, I was trying to offer a draw to this 8-year-old girl. The position was dead drawn. I mean, I obviously have been preaching, oh, you shouldn't draw early, you should play the game out. But this instance, I was trying to offer a draw multiple times, and like if the girl was a streamer, which I mean she was too young to be streaming, but imagine an audience is watching this thinking like, why the heck is this dude being so disrespectful, trying to like leave early? Like, what's his problem? He's there to play the game. Like, why not play it out? I was trying to get to the car shop before they closed, but I was also trying to, you know, also this girl was like she was very strong. She was like 1600. Um so anyways, that I can pick up a car? No. Maybe a Hot Wheel. F6 was not F5 stronger. F5 was a move at some point for sure. So okay, what's happening here? There's a lot of pressure on E6, but there's also, I think, sufficient defense. That's a good question, Fly. Good to see you. Shout out to Fly tuning in. Also, shout out to Screws. Good to see Screws. Always appreciate seeing Screws around. Magnessa? No, I don't think so. D5 is a great move. Yeah, I like D5. Like, imagine if we see this capture here. Pawn takes will open up. Um, Now, what's funny is if these knights didn't exist, then this pawn would be pinned, actually, to white's black rank. Back rank. Excuse me. White, black. These are the colors of the pieces in chess. You know what's funny, guys? There was a tournament that St. Louis Chess Club did, I think a couple years ago, where they were like promoting something. I don't know, but they had the black pieces go first. And when you set up the chessboard, people say white on right because when you put the queen and king, you say the queen goes on her color, right? So that's why, like on a physical board, if you see it like on maybe some TV show or something and they don't know what they're doing, they'll set up the pieces going left and right. Because like if you just have a board on its own and you don't know how to set up, you basically have a 50-50 chance of putting the pieces in the right orientation. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter if you say the queen goes on her color or not. You could set it up going left and right, but what matters is that the queen is going to be on the D file and that the king is on the E file, basically. So if you're white, if you have the white pieces, you want the queen on the left and the king on the right. And for black, it'd be the opposite, king on the left, queen on the right. So really, you could have black go first, but just swap the king and the queen. If that makes sense to anyone. I might sound like a crazy person. I mean, I'm crazy normally anyways. But how lovely it was to see me. When am I coming back? When are you going to be there, Screws? Maybe I'll go to see you. What's the top engine line? E-takes. It does want E-takes. Interestingly. Crazy like a fox. Thank you, pizza. You're here now, Screws, in the Netherlands? Or here in the chat now? Oh, here's our kid. And both Phoebe and opponent. I mean, yeah, it's a real head scratcher, this position. I agree. I wonder if Phoebe gives these glances on purpose or if it's just like a natural instinct. Like, don't mess with my view. Okay. Knight to e5 here. Now, if white captures, Phoebe can take with the bishop, connecting her rooks. You thought that was my doing, Pizza Racer? Do I look like I give people the evil? Listen, if I had taught Phoebe that, she has far surpassed me. If anything, Phoebe taught me. She will not take the bishop, queen trade. Honestly, it's a good point. So okay, I'm thinking white should not take, right? If you're ever considering what you should do, imagine how convenient this capture would be for us. I had mentioned bishop takes, right? This bishop has been a sore point in our position for much of the game. So being able to develop that with a tempo is an absolute blessing. So if you're white, you should be thinking, what is like the least convenient thing I can do to my opponent? Like taking here is very convenient. So you shouldn't make life easy on your opponent. So capturing here should be ruled out. Now, notice this knight can be taken two different ways, and it's defended by the pawn and the bishop, but you would have to take with the pawn. So taking with the knight and then taking with the pawn, notice black will have double isolated e-pawns. That is what I would call an inconvenience. So the best move for white is to take the knight, pawn takes back, assuming you don't want to go down a piece, and then maybe white brings the other knight and attacks that isolated pawn. And that pawn will be kind of hard to defend. So white has an opportunity here to do some damage. And honestly, opponent still has over an hour on the clock, so Phoebe's probably feeling a bit of time pressure. I've seen this backfire for sure. It always seems nice to have, more time. But the advantage of having more time is if you use it. And it looks like the opponent's using it, which is a good sign for them, of course. But I've seen people just never use their time. They just play super fast. And I think a lot of people that play online especially are used to playing a bit faster. But I think opponent's doing well. Phoebe looks tired. Yeah. I mean, it's a long term. This is a second game in the same day. Her position is definitely not too pleasant. So we've got to send her some positive vibes. What's up, Halvard? Knight c4 looks strong. Yeah, also controlling like maybe d6 as well. But yeah, like taking here is going to be knight takes, pawn takes, and then taking here. Taking back like this. But maybe we can get our bishop here then. Would be nice. Has she eaten? It's a good question. Yeah, it's another thing to consider because Phoebe is currently traveling. She's not where she normally resides, so it's always a bit harder when you're in a new place to have to find food. And Phoebe's also vegan, so that's another layer of difficulty, I'd say. So it's not easy to have to travel, compete, take care of yourself, stream 2 games in one day. She's got the black pieces. I mean, come on. How much more difficult can it be? Derp 3. what are the derp messages? All right, Phoebe's gotten up. Phoebe can't stand the pressure. She can't stand any. How is he gonna take my knight and take my pawns? But yeah, opponent, he's playing well so far, but I would be impressed. He cannot play perfectly forever. We're gonna see. Maybe some things will turn around, I feel. Still optimistic. So like, yeah, maybe opponent takes on e6. Perhaps. I wouldn't be surprised. That's something I think a lot of beginner players will like to do is you see a trade, you just make a trade. But yeah, I mean, opponent looks like they're deep in thought, looking at all the options. So taking the knight, it's probably going to be best. Taking on c6 is better than taking on e6 for sure. Yeah, she doesn't have the notation. Okay, d6 played. So this is kind of a gambit. Opponent's being creative, and there's a lot of different captures that could have been made. So to do something like this is definitely thinking outside the box. It's very tactical. The idea, I believe, is to give up the pawn and then play a discovered double attack on the queen and more pressure on the knight on e5. But interestingly, if knight to c4 is played immediately, Phoebe has this intermezzo. Knight takes with check, and maybe there's queen takes or something. But if queen takes, then maybe this pawn falls too. And if pawn takes, then Phoebe can bring her queen in this way. So this could be the start of being a little too creative, actually. Sometimes the most direct and straightforward plan is to simply, trade and make, these captures. So this could be the beginning of a blunder, right? So we'll see. We'll see if Phoebe could be scared of taking the pawn. When your opponent gives you something for free, there's a pretty good chance that it's not actually for free. So we'll see if Phoebe has the bravery. Taking the pawn is the best move. It is the best move, and it's still plus 2.5 for white. So it's still a fine position, a good position even. You could take with check now, but then knight takes, the rook will open up and defend the pawn. So Phoebe should take the pawn and pray, essentially. Manny saying, sadly, there's nothing she can do to come back from this. Sad emojis. There's nothing farther from the truth. And Fly agrees with me. So the pin of shame from Screws, perhaps. No, listen, guys. Have you ever heard the term, it's not over until it's over? Well, allow me to introduce to you the saying that it's not Jover until it's Jover. And only I can say when it's Jover. No, guys, it's not Jover. You think she'll take Nor? I hope so. She might be scared, but there's no time to be scared in chess. It's a little pawn. I mean, listen, we're a queen. We are royalty. Since when has a queen ever been afraid of a pawn? Wow, Johannes, is that German notation? What is S? D. So interestingly, what was I gonna say? Is that like Dama? S is knight. Springer. Yeah, Tim, this could be the first pawn of many. So in my ideal scenario, I'm imagining opponent plays knight to c4, Phoebe takes with check, and then opponent takes her queen, and then she takes the king, and then he goes, oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. They go back a move. They look around for an arbiter. Maybe they play on. And then opponent takes with the queen. And then Phoebe gets a second pawn out of it. And that bishop's hanging. I mean, listen, this could be the beginning of an avalanche of blunders. Lauer. L. Lauer? Is that bishop? Lauer and Bauer? Is Bauer rook? Yeah, Sean. That's right. Opponent does have gum. So clearly he's not kicking ass. Laufer, Bauer's pawn, runner. Wait, what's the runner? Bauer's pawn? So what's the bishop and what's the rook? This upsets the Germans. Umlaut. How do I pronounce Laufer? Bishop is Laufer. There is no runner. Farmer? That's cute. Term? That's an interesting term. Okay. No, it's not the rook's turn to move. It's the queen's turn to move. Phoebe is putting herself through it right now. She's got 20 minutes. She's got to take this pawn. I mean, this could be her chance, right? If she leaves the pawn on the board, I mean, she could play queen d8, but like, I don't know. Knight's just gonna be taken after that, and knight's coming to one of these squares, and things will just get worse, I think, if she doesn't take it. So that's the thing. Opponent putting Phoebe on the clock in the spotlight. She's got the pressure. She feels the heat from, I mean, this pawn sacrifice, maybe it's not sound, but perhaps it's psychologically striking fear into Phoebe's position already. So she's thinking like, what on earth could be the follow-up? And I think she has to trust herself. I think she wants to take it, but she's not sure. And she just has to believe. Johannes saying d6 is a great move, actually. I think there's a bit of bias between you and me. I think I obviously am commentating for Phoebe, so we have our favorite, and you might have your bias for your father, which I understand. So I think it's funny. Like we would need a truly neutral commentator to tell us, and maybe the computer is the ultimate neutral commentator. D6 is, I would say it's still a good move. It's not the best. Best is knight takes e5, which we had been looking at. And then it also likes the move knight to d4, actually, just building up pressure along with the pawn. Makes no sense. Doesn't it win a pawn? Queen takes d6, knight takes e5, f takes, and then sc4, Springer to c4. Doesn't it win a pawn? Well, you could probably win the pawn without giving up the pawn, I guess. So if you give up the pawn and then win a pawn, then it's kind of not actually winning a pawn. It's, I guess, a fair trade. A neutral trade, perhaps. So d6, maybe you would mark it as unnecessary. But I called it creative, which might be a nicer way of putting it. But no, Phoebe hasn't taken yet. She's been stun locked. So I've done this before where I've just like use all of my time early and then just force myself to play fast. And I've had I would say generally poor results doing that. So the key though is that I
learn from those games that, okay, I need to be better managing my time. So it's always kind of like a positive feedback loop. If you're in a worse position, you use more time and then you get low on time and then your position gets worse. So it's hard. You hope that she thinks for another 20 minutes. Well, she only has 16 of them. I'm doomed to be bad at time management. So I can blame it on the streaming is what you're saying. Queen takes. Well, Johannes, what you're missing is that they might not take on e5. Queen takes, and we're hoping for knight c4 immediately. That's my hope. Blame the chat. No, Phoebe's really, I think, in her head. I mean, she's thought for way longer than the opponent. Opponent just threw a pawn by the wayside, really. And like, yeah, there's probably tactics, but if she hasn't seen them by now, like, I think the important thing to note is that your queen's not getting trapped and you're not losing a piece, right? Can we agree on that much? Because the only reason why the pawn on d6 is scary at all is because of the rook. But the rook is blocked by the knight. So we can calculate any knight discovery. We can just drop our queen back, right? So queen takes. You could throw in an intermezzo for sure. Taking here. We take with the pawn. And now this knight can go to these two spots. Discovery on the queen. We just drop the queen back somewhere. And then, tell them to do their worst, right? The damage is going to be like, okay, maybe we lose a pawn. It's not the end of the world. The game continues on. You'll take the pawn too, Andrea?